Is the life of a soul as a separate entity, is it infinite?
Separate entity in what sense?
Like we can describe it at present.
You see, life of soul evolves from the life of body, and they cannot be separated as two distinct, separable things to begin with. But as it is trained slowly and gradually, as a man participates in different events of life, the soul begins to acquire its own identity. So if by separate you mean a separate identity, then of course it's true. Human conscience and human actions and human, let's say, spirit, the life source, they remain as one inseparable thing to begin with. But gradually, one becomes aware and conscious of what he has been doing in different circumstances, how he has been conducting himself under different pressures of greed, of fear, and this and that. As he does so, he begins to acquire a consciousness of his personality. That happens automatically with everyone. A corrupt man acquires a corrupt personality. A pious man acquires a pious personality. Those who are in between, they begin to move either in one direction or another. But as they travel from one direction to the other, the previous personality is gradually obliterated, and in its place, a new personality begins to stamp itself. So that ultimately would be the decisive factor as to what sort of soul is going to develop. That development of the soul is a very long process. Although we think that immediately as we die the soul becomes an independent unit, of course it does, but there is an Alam-e-Barzakh as well, which is well supported by the traditions of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, and also from the verses of the Holy Quran, which I have been discussing in a different booklet. It will become very clear when this book is printed. Very soon, I hope, inshallah. There I have explained this phenomenon to a degree. So, in short, what I can tell you is this, that as the soul begins to develop like an embryo in the uterus of the mother, it can be described as having a separate entity. At the same time, it can be described as being an integral part of the mother. To begin with, things are so confused that even during the current debates, the moralists and the scientists have not yet been able to determine for certain whether the embryo at the initial stages should be described as an independent entity to a degree that if you abort it, it should be tantamount to murder. But as the pregnancy proceeds further, after about 4.5 months, as the Holy Prophet ﷺ mentioned, an angel appears and gives soul to that body. And that is the soul which we are talking about now, which is different from life itself alone. Because the animals have never been described to have received that soul at any stage. But they have a nafs, which is common to everything. But we are talking of ruh as soul. So that is why I have to explain everything, so that there is no confusion left in your minds as to what happens and what takes the final launch into the future. It is this soul which distinguishes man from other animal types or species. And this is related to free will. This is related to free will to either do good or do bad. And that is the demarcation line between animal and human life. Because you know very well that animals never think in terms of goodness or bad, evil. They do things instinctively. So the proof that man has something additional, which we refer to as soul, can be well demonstrated by the behavior of man as compared to the behavior of lower types of life. So if a dog bites, he bites just by instinct. If he doesn't, he does so just by instinct. Similarly, the doves and other animals, down to the bacteria, behave in a manner which seems to have been fixed for them. They can't deviate. They have no choice. So the question of choice, it has become evident, relates to the existence of soul. This is what we call soul. That ultimate decisive factor in man, which consciously leads him on to evil or to goodness, that is what we describe as soul. So the soul develops according to man's way of life, how he conducts himself, and begins to receive impressions which become fixed character in the soul at last. Those fixed character make it either beautiful or ugly, hell-bound or heaven-bound. But it does not happen quickly, immediately after one dies. So the Holy Quran has spoken on this subject at length by the help of different examples, and makes us understand that as the initial soul, initial life form, which takes root in the embryo of the mother, in the embryonic form in the uterus of the mother, is so different from the ultimate child when it is delivered. The difference between the two is immense, in fact, truly unimaginable. But we see it as the embryo gets rooted and as the finished child is delivered. So according to the Holy Quran, that would be the difference between the souls which part from our body and the souls which are resurrected. In between, there is an indescribably long period, which is the period of slow, gradual development. So those things which are imprinted on the soul are like messages in genes. Those genes determine as to what would be the outcome in the form of the child. So they go on developing their message and giving them greater expressions as the messages, coded messages, become unfolded slowly and gradually. So from the study of the Quran, scenario like that is evident, to me at least. I can see it very positively. That is how the Quran describes the life to come in relation to the life which ends here. So although we think we are very, very conscious and wary of all that is around us, but if you internally analyze yourself, introspectively, you will find that most of the time our minds remain in a state of sleepiness, and very rarely we come to the very conscious, alert moments of life. Normally we are being carried away. So the Holy Quran